are going to be using a prong collar with Rose. And if you are not familiar with prong collars, they do look really awful. A lot of people get turned off just by their appearance, but prong collars are actually one of the most gentle collars out there. They work by evenly distributing pressure all the way around the dog's neck versus other collars which can put pressure points right on the trachea when the dog pulls. And that's why if you've ever seen the dog pulling at the end of its leash that's choking and coughing, that's from all that pressure being put on their trachea, and that can cause a lot of damage. And a prong collar has these prongs so that when it's fitted properly, it distributes pressure evenly all the way around the dog's neck, and when you pull on the collar, it closes evenly around their neck. So when we put this on, we want it to sit up really high and really snug. A lot of times people will use prong collars but have them hanging loose, and that is a way to cause a pressure point. That's not the proper way to put a prong collar on, and plus it's not going to be activated and useful when you do need it to be. So you want this sitting up very high on the dog's neck, and you want it snug so that it's not moving around. And when it's snug like that, it's not choking the dog at all. You'll see that when you see Rosie wearing hers. This is not the very, very first time she's worn it. I did put a prong collar on her last night, but this is pretty early on. This is maybe the third time that she's had this put on her. And I'll show you what I did when I initially introduced the prong collar. It's a little pressure and release game to teach the dog what the pressure feels like and how to respond to it. That's something you really only need to do the very first time you put a prong collar on a dog. And once you do that initial pressure and the release, you're not going to have to do that every time. Another thing I would recommend when you're using prong collars is to use a normal flat buckle collar as well, and that's going to go underneath the prong. And that's because prong collars can come apart, and you would absolutely not want that to happen while you're out walking your dog where they could get loose. The prongs are designed to come apart so that you can add and remove links to change the length. So they are designed to come apart. It's not normal for them to just fall apart while you're using them, but it is something that can happen. So when you put this on, you've got, let's see if you can see here. You've got this ring here that swivels. It's called your live ring, and that's where your leash clips to, okay? And this is what will tighten and loosen the collar when you use it. There's another ring, it's got long hair, but if you can see, this other ring is called the dead ring, and that doesn't change the pressure when you pull on it. So what we're going to do with her flat buckle collar here is we're going to put a carabiner, just a regular carabiner, on the D-ring of her collar and clip that to the dead ring of the prong collar, okay? And the reason you do that is so that if this prong collar comes off, let's just say while you're out walking your dog, it comes off, you still have connection to your dog. Okay, see how that works? You still have a hold on your dog and they're not loose and running free. So anytime you're going to be out anywhere walking on a prong collar, I would recommend you do this. So I'm going to get this set back up, and I'll show you how to introduce the prong collar. Again, you want this up very high and snug, and so that your leash is coming off the top of the neck behind the dog's head and not from underneath here. And I'm also going to remove the slip lead that I had on her before. We're not going to keep that on. Okay. So to teach the dog how to respond to the collar and how the collar works, all we're going to do, I'm going to move this bed out of the way, is we're just going to add gentle pressure, very, very gentle pressure. Good, yes. Until the dog turns and yields to the pressure. We want them to give to that pressure and not fight it. And that's one of the biggest things that will help keep the dog from pulling, is giving to that pressure. So I'm just going to walk the dog around back and forth, give gentle pressure until she turns. Yes, good girl. Good girl. Lots of praise when she does. This also starts getting the dog tuning into us. Yes. They're out of the way. Pressure, yes. And the more that pressure, you're also going to release your leash pressure. You don't want to continue pulling when the dog turns and comes to you. You want that to be very, very soft and gentle. And that's how this collar is meant to work. It's meant to be very kind, gentle, and using the smallest amount of pressure that you can to get the dog to yield to it. To get the dog to yield to you. Yes, good girl. Yes, good. Okay, show it a couple more times. And again, when you do this with your dog, you really only have to do this when you first initially introduce the collar. It's not every single time you put it on. She has already had this done, which is why she's so good at it. And it only takes a few minutes of playing with this for them to kind of figure out how it works. At least to get a basic understanding of what that pressure feels like. So we're just going to take Rose out on a walk on her, on the prong collar, and we are going to be teaching her to walk in a heel rather than out in front of me or off to the side sniffing things like she's been doing before. When you walk the dog in the heel, you want them to be at or slightly behind your leg, but you want the dog close to you, looking to you for guidance. You are providing leadership for your dog. And so what we're going to do here is keep our leash relatively short. There's no reason for her to have this entire leash, because then that just allows her to get out and further away from me. The goal is that we are on a short leash, but that the leash is loose. Lots of little leash corrections here at first, and over time those will be more spaced out. Right now she's learning what area she can work within. She's still going to try everything that she's been doing before. She's going to continue trying to sniff the ground or wander off, kind of do her own thing. And so for starters, I am going to have to give her lots of little reminders of what we're doing. But the more we work on this, the more she's going to just begin to follow me, and those corrections will get to be a lot further spaced out. Stop, she should come to a stop beside me. If she doesn't, I'm going to give her a small quick correction on the leash. Girl. Already a lot better here. My leash is definitely looser. Of course, the one where we're closest to the camera is the one where she needed a little bit more guidance. But as you can see, she's been working on auto sit. Auto sit means that she comes to a complete, or whenever we come to a complete stop, she automatically goes into a sit. Auto sit is an unspoken command that just means that you don't give an actual verbal cue, it's just something she does. Really great to have that built into your walk. If you need to stop to do something, take care of something, talk to somebody, your dog goes into a sit quietly until you're ready to move again. Every other one before that last one, if you look, the leash is completely soft. She does it on her own. She did need a little bit of prompting with that last one, and the way that you do cue that is straight upward pressure with your leash. And if you need to, which when we started this, I had to do this with Rose, putting a little bit of pressure at the base of the tail, which I'll show you here. So to help the dog sit, pressure here at the base of the tail will help if we're better in the camera. Let's do this again. A little bit of pressure at the base of the tail, with also pressure on your leash going straight up. Eventually, you should be able to do that with just upward leash pressure. And after you practice with that a lot, it'll become a built-in thing that they just do automatically. Again, we'll have more updates with other videos on the work that we've been doing coming up, so make sure you keep following Miss Rose and her progress here with us.